Welcome to the Edina City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, February 18th, 2025, 7:02 p.m. Director Benner usually tells folks that we're doing these meetings in a hybrid fashion. I will tell you that we are doing these meetings in a hybrid fashion. And people might be watching on cable TV or on YouTube.com, Edina TV, in some form or fashion, getting to us virtually. Some folks are here in the audience that wish to address the council on matters of concern to them. And tonight we've got, I think, one opportunity on community comment and one public hearing that provides opportunity for people to participate. And so we're going to continue doing these meetings in a hybrid fashion for an indeterminate period of time. And having provided that information, I'm going to call the meeting to order and then ask Carrie Sinning, who is sitting in tonight for Sharon Allison, to call the roll. Ms. Sinning?
Thank you, Mayor Hopland. And Councilmember Agnew is absent today. So Councilmember Jackson? Here. Councilmember Pierce?
Here.
Councilmember Visser? Here. And Mayor Hopland?
Here.
Thank you.
Pledge of Allegiance is next.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We've got a meeting agenda that's been published and is on the dais this evening with all of us. Is there anyone on the council or staff that wishes to modify the meeting agenda in any form or fashion? Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda as published?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Pierce seconds the adoption of the meeting agenda as published. Any further conversation on that issue? All those in favor of adopting the meeting agenda as published, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The meeting agenda is adopted and approved for the meeting. And now we are at community comment, and we may have some folks that are tuning in online, but we've got some of our fellow residents in the audience tonight, I think, that would like to address the council on a matter of concern to them that's not on the agenda this evening or scheduled for a future public hearing. So folks, if you want to come up and address the council on a matter of concern to you, feel free to come up and get started. Looks like we've got one of our residents who wants to use the overhead projector, and we'll have 3 minutes for your presentation, and you'll get a yellow light, as you know, when you've got about 30 seconds, and then you should be thinking about wrapping up your comments right at the 3-minute mark. All right, very good. Thank you.
Good
Welcome.
evening, Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Ralph Sickert. I live at 4311 Cornelia Circle. During the February 13th HRA work session, staff claimed to have delivered 17.2% of Edina's goal for affordable units as set by the Met Council. My first question: how many of the affordable units created since 2015, shown on this city slide in orange, are permanently affordable, and how many of those units are subject to a sunset clause, at which point the developer no longer has to offer the units at an affordable rate? Speaking of affordable rates, during the December 17th HRA meeting, staff reported that the majority of the developers, each of whom have been awarded multi-million-dollar tax incentives to create affordable housing, have not been offering units at affordable rates. And worse, staff has known these violations have been happening for years. Therefore, my second question is, why has the city not addressed the issue of developers overcharging for affordable units in a more timely and forceful manner? When does noncompliance become fraud? I, for one, am left to wonder why this wasn't more of a discussion point when a month ago, yet a second multi-million-dollar gift of TIF was granted a developer who was already on the naughty list. Also disturbing is that residents are left to wonder just how many of the affordable units are actually occupied. Why is there not any transparency as to whether our tax dollars have gone to sheltering the needy or are nothing more than vacant, unused, open shells? Which leads to my third question. What are the number of vacant versus occupied units for each particular development? And when will it start to be reported on a regular basis to residents? It would seem that occupancy would be a rather important metric for any housing initiative. Together, these previously asked questions, but unanswered, leave this resident feeling as if Edina is only creating a mirage of affordable housing units. A mirage like the oasis in a desert, which disappears when you get a closer look. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. Janie Weston, 6136 Brookview Avenue. I have a really big multi-part question to ask, and I'll try to be clear and won't get an answer tonight. We'll see how 2 weeks from now something can be given as a response. Now, with my concern and many other citizens' concerns about what's happening at the federal government level as departments and budgets, money is being erased. Every day, it's a new department is being slashed, cut, dismantled, whatever. The big question is, how will this affect the city as far as what our budget depends on, as far as the portion of our budget that's federal funds, grants? How will that happen? We have ADA compliance that we need to do for improving our curb cuts, for instance. We have federal grants that may be getting used for special needs athletic and park programs for special needs kids and adults. The Crosstown Pedestrian Bridge, how much of that is, some of it funding, how much of that is federal? How much of the funding for the next year's projected sound barrier wall on the Crosstown, how much of that is federal? Public utilities. We have some water well buildings that now have the bloom of the Riley Tar and Chemical issue that's working its way toward more wells in Edina. It's a matter of time, only a matter of time, that those buildings will need to be modified for safe water for our citizens. Some of that funding, I would guess, is probably coming from EPA Superfund cleanup. How will that even exist? We have federal grants, perhaps, for police and fire equipment and training. Federal money for health programs, training, and coordination. So, my first question is, what is our current dollar amount, not a percentage, but dollar amount in the city budget that's federal origination of funds? How will a lack of, let's just assume they may all go away? Then what does the city do? Is there a future plan being talked about and worked out now? And will this lack of funding for very important things that every taxpayer will have to deal with, will it become a greater burden for us local taxpayers?
All right. Thank you.
It's multi-part and
Nope.
complicated.
I think we can even answer preliminarily one of those questions tonight.
Okay,
So before you leave, we'll,
okay.
When
And I
ready
was
to-
just
when-
coming up with what I could
Yeah.
think of off the top of my
Yeah,
head. There's
and-
more, I'm sure. So,
thanks for doing
Thank
that and raising the issue of how will federal cuts potentially affect Edina and its budget. And is anybody else that wants to address the council on a matter of concern to them in the audience? Okay. Is there anybody online? No, all right, very good. I think we could, well, with respect to Mr. Zickert's concerns about affordable housing and the non-compliance by some of the property owners in terms of affordable housing, we can address that a couple of weeks from now with either through you or our affordable housing manager, Stephanie Hawkinson. But I know that we have asked you as a council to start looking at, and I think you even on your own initiative started looking at from a staffing standpoint, how will potential federal cuts affect Edina, and you could maybe get some provide some preliminary information on that.
Thank you, Your Honor. I gave the council an update on this a couple of weeks ago. Part of that, though, is that information is already way out of date, right? So we are continuously monitoring both our kind of operational areas where we come into contact with federal funding. But Ms. Weston is right. There's a number of these areas that are infrastructure related that we'll need to just sit through and find out what the status of those connections currently are, and we'll report that back through our website by the end of the week, like we have been doing here for a while now, and we'll give a greater report to you at the council meeting in March 4th.
Okay. As it relates to infrastructure, as Director Milner, do we have any federal grant agreements that are not executed fully, or do we have some that are fully executed?
What I'm hearing from MnDOT is the two projects that we have some money, the interchange project and the Roslyn Park Bed Bridge. There's no changes to funding at this point. That could change tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they've said full steam ahead, and they can continue to go ahead until you hear otherwise from us, is what we've heard for pretty much every week since the new administration.
The advice I'm getting so far, the information I'm getting so far is that if you've got signed grant agreements, they're gonna hold, because those are contractual obligations. If you've got a commitment on a grant, but you don't have a signed agreement yet, those things are still up in the air. So, okay, let's move on then to Manager Neal, who will report out, as he usually does, regarding comments that were made at the prior meeting, and he's also provided information on the website, I think, by the Friday following the Tuesday meeting. So the information has been out there, but nonetheless, it's a good place now to have us follow up with you so that a different audience has that information that you have at hand that responds to questions and concerns that were raised at the prior council meeting. Manager Neal.
Thank you, Your Honor. We had 3 people speak during community comment at the February 4th meeting. Ms. Weston spoke about process with regards to conservation easements and how we develop that. Steve Brown spoke about his advocacy for tax increment financing for affordable housing projects. So those were just comments, they weren't questions. Connie Carino called in remotely, and she had some questions and some concerns about the new look of the software that we use to share our council agendas with folks, and how it's not quite as easy to follow as previous kind of look and feels were of that service on our website. So we will take a look at that and see what kind of latitude we have with that software. And because she was not able to find some piece, I did reach out to her that week to get a little more specificity on what she was concerned about. So I think we'll take a look at that for her.
All right. Thank you for that. That prompt any questions or comments from other council members? Member Risser.
Just one. Somebody called me and noted that when they go and they look at the website for responses to community comment, there's only 3 items on there now, and it's been significantly reduced. So I'm wondering why we're not just keeping everything up there.
I can answer that. We agreed at the beginning of this process that we would keep them up for 3 months. And we only answer questions. We don't just make a general response to a general comment. So we use that space to answer questions. For the last meeting, there were no questions, there were just comments, so there were no updates on our website after the last meeting. So that if there are no questions, it's going to get smaller and smaller as those 3 months trickle off. If you decide you want to go further and keep them out longer, certainly we can do that. We just didn't know what we were going to expect when we started this process.
Very good. Next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are several items on the consent agenda. Member Jackson wants to remove item 6.1, which is the minutes for the City Council work session and the regular February 4th City Council meeting, and then the special City Council work session minutes from February 6, 2025. Other than item 6.1, is there any council member who desires to remove an item from the consent agenda? With the exception of item 6.1, is there a motion to adopt the balance of the items on the consent agenda in a single motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Or second.
Member Pierce moves, Member Jackson seconds the adoption of the items on the consent agenda, with the exception of item 6.1. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the items on the consent agenda in a single motion, except item 6.1, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The items on the consent agenda are adopted with the exception of 6.1, and I will now turn to Member Jackson with regard to those minutes that were alluded to that are under item 6.1 in the consent agenda.
Well, since I wasn't here, I don't know whether they're accurate or not, so I'm going to let somebody else move those.
All right. Thank you. I think your choice. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the City Council work session and the regular City Council meeting on February 4th and the minutes of the special City Council work session on February 6, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Member Risser moves the adoption of the minutes as stated, and Member Pierce seconds that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of those minutes from the council work session and the regular council meeting on February 4th and the special City Council work session on February 6, 2025, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Abstain.
Minutes are approved. Thank you. And now we are going to the next portion of the agenda, which is the public hearing portion of the agenda. And our engineering director, Chad Milner, has this matter. It is the only matter scheduled for public hearing this evening, and it is Resolution 2025-16, which potentially vacates the right-of-way easements at 7235 France Avenue. Director Milner.
Thank you, Mayor, for that introduction. Members of the council, 25-16. The existing easements. So there are 4 easements located around the property at 7235 France Avenue. It's the Macy's property. These are all duplicative easements that we don't need today, and we are going to hold all the easements that we do need in the future until any sort of development project occurs in the future. So I'll start with number 9. There's a duplicative sanitary sewer easement. There's 2 of them in 2 different documents. Thought it'd be a easier, cleaner thing to vacate one of those. We are still going to hold that exact easement just in one of the documents. We're going to hold that until that pipe is moved with a future development. Number 13 and 14 are encompassed in county right-of-way and within a sidewalk easement that the city holds from 2012 when we did all the sidewalks along France Avenue. We're going to hold all those easements and make those adjustments to any sidewalk easements after a development project. And then number 18 is a transit easement. The 9 Mile Creek Regional Trail has an easement. We are not going to vacate that this evening. We're going to hold that, and any adjustments will be done afterwards. So these are the ones that are not needed at this time, and they're not needed in the future. Those are the only ones we are willing to consider vacations. The city, we have no issue vacating these noted easements, but we are holding those remaining easements. Private utility companies have no issues with these either. They're working with the developer on any adjustments. We received no comments on Better Together Edina, and I would recommend vacating these easements and approving Resolution 2025-16, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions?
Yeah, can you go back and just repeat what you said on this slide? What's included and what's not?
I'm asking you to vacate, or the applicant, not me, the applicant is asking to vacate these 4 easements.
Okay.
There is another 4 to 6 easements that we're holding that we need Until a development project is completed, they meet all the conditions, then we would consider adjusting those easements.
Okay,
These are the ones we don't need now or in the future.
got it. And then the only other question, when we've done this in the past, I'd say it probably looked more like, or at least I would internalize it more like 14 or, more like 14. 18 being the transit system easement, right? There's a lot of trees and greenery in there. And so what happens if we release those? Do we have any say over what can happen across that easement in terms of tree coverage, things like that?
Well, this one's unique in that you've approved a development, comprehensive plan amendment and a rezoning that already has all those conditions on what they need to do.
Okay,
So they need to follow that approval process that this
Okay.
council's already approved.
okay, all right.
Yep.
Other questions for Director Miller? Member Risser?
Part of it is just about process, because I know we've looked at vacating easements for different situations, and it was really good to get the documents later in the day, so I knew exactly what we were being asked. I appreciate the word duplicative sanitary sewer easement. I'm not seeing that word in the other easements. And so the one thing that really caught my attention was the transit system easement, in part just because it encompasses the 9 Mile Creek Trail bit. And so being able to read that and understand that it was completely apart from that was a good thing for me, especially because with the history of this project, from sketch plan to final review, in my opinion, the 9 Mile Creek Trail was compromised. Like in the sketch plan, it didn't even show up. And then in the final review, they had stairs landing on the 9 Mile Creek Trail. So that was something I was concerned about. With the scenic and open space easement, I'm a little concerned because that is something that encompasses a lot. The easement number, it goes all the way up to 70th and it goes over to Xerxes. And so it's not just this parcel, and I get that you're saying it's duplicative, but it's not, that word is not there on the map. And, I think about the easement and the area that it actually includes, and I kind of feel like I don't have enough information because it looks like it's part of a larger system that, could be used for really creating a beautiful public right-of-way and not infringing on the public right-of-way. And I'm a little reticent about that. It also comes around where there's the part that would be a sidewalk coming from the library down to Adams Park. And it's troubling because, that area, and it was pointed out, this is getting a little bit in the weeds, but it was pointed out to me that we didn't even plan for that sidewalk segment in the CIP. And I just kind of keep feeling like there's public infrastructure that is never going to happen. And with that, it's just such a much needed thing. And I'm just wondering, here there is language that says it's only for this parcel, but when you look at this whole, are we approving anything beyond this parcel? No?
Legal descriptions are only for this parcel.
Only for this parcel, so
The
it
larger
won't.
document that you see, those all will hold except for this one
Okay,
parcel.
all right, well, that's good. Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Director Milner? I guess you might comment on why you feel comfortable with respect to a potential vacation of that right-of-way easement number 13 that Member Risser has just
Yeah,
commented
again,
on.
there's overlapping Hennepin County right-of-way for France Avenue, and we already hold easements for a sidewalk there that the city got permission in 2012. So
That were
there's
part of
already
the-
stacks of easements, so we're just trying to clean out the ones we don't need, I think is maybe a better way to say it. So,
Those easements that we have were part of the site plan that was approved for the project?
no, those easements were from 2012 when we did the intersection improvements and got sidewalks along this corridor. So we're not gonna vacate those until they do their project. Because if they don't, we wanna hold those. And we probably wanna adjust them and make them bigger with the project afterwards. That was a condition of your approval.
you feel comfortable and confident we can vacate all these easements and kind of clean up the project for them and get moving?
These are the only 4 I would. We're going to hold all the rest until
Okay.
the development projects is over.
So with the number 13 scenic and open space easement, we are not losing any public right-of-way. It's not a smaller amount, it's not like going to a narrower strip or anything?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, good, thanks. Any other questions from council members? Otherwise, this is a public hearing matter. And Director Milner, stand by. I'll open this up now for public testimony with respect to the potential vacation of these right-of-way easements that are proposed that Director Milner described. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment regarding or testify regarding the potential vacation of these right-of-way easements at 7235 France Avenue? Okay. We have Ms. Weston coming forward.
Okay.
Who's
Yeah, I've got it. Janie Weston, 6136 Brookview. I'm not fully knowledgeable about the easements, and it's really hard to see the numbers on the image up on the screen. But the easement along the south side of the property, where the 9 Mile Creek Trail goes now, because that's being discussed, it brings to my mind a question of, with it being an easement, the development is going to happen, and the 9 Mile Creek bike, walk, run trail goes through there. So once all is said and done, the jurisdiction over the easement for that trail to be there, who has
jurisdiction?
Yeah, is it the 9 Mile Creek, Three Rivers Park District in conjunction with the city, or is it the new property owner? And during construction, will there still be access to that long block worth of trail, or will there be a detour? Because if I'm biking along there, I don't want to have a load of materials being lifted with a crane. Not that it happens very often, but it can, dropping on my head or getting backed into by a vehicle that the backup beeper isn't working well, or who knows what. But people using the trail need to still be able to use it safely or have a safe detour. And then if it is detoured, where would it go? So
Okay.
just
Yep.
that.
Thanks
those
for the question.
concerns. Thanks.
Anybody else in the audience? Anybody online that wishes to testify regarding this matter?
No, I don't have any callers tonight.
All right. Take it back up here to the council, and then we'll, is there a motion to close the public hearing in this matter?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves, Member Pierce seconds the motion to close the public hearing in this matter. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing in this matter say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Public hearing is closed. Let's turn back then to that question that Ms. Weston raised about jurisdiction and access.
Yeah, Three Rivers Park holds the easement, and during construction, we made a condition when the council approved it, the project, that they have to work with the park district and determine when the trail can be open and when it needs to be closed for safety reasons of the traveling public. They dealt with similar stuff along this corridor and other trails that they manage. So it's working with Danny McCauley at the Three Rivers Park District on whether it's going to be closed or not and where those detours would be located.
We'll keep it open when it's safe to do so and
Exactly.
make those judgments as the project continues.
Yep, as a team, we'll be part of those discussions.
Thanks for that. So let's take it back up to the council here. The staff has requested us to adopt Resolution 2025-16, which would vacate certain designated right-of-way easements at 7235 France Avenue. The following easements are designated in the resolution: exception number 9, exception number 13, exception number 14, and exception number 18. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-16?
So moved.
Member Jackson moves.
Second.
Member Pierce seconds the adoption of Resolution 2025-16, which would vacate the designated right-of-way easements at 7235 France Avenue. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of Resolution 2025-16 as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 2025-16 is adopted, and those easements are vacated. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this evening. Now we're under reports and recommendations, and we have one matter here this evening, and that is accepting donations. Let me turn to that matter. 2025-17 is the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-17?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves, Member Pierce seconds the adoption of Resolution 2025-17, which accepts donations on behalf of the City of Edina. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of Resolution 2025-17 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 2025-17 is adopted. And this reporting period, the donation, there's really a generous donation came in from the Edina Community Foundation for $8,700 to the Park and Rec Department for what they call the Connect Card scholarships. And these are scholarships that go to kids that want to participate in park and rec programs that don't have the family resources to do that. And so this is a very generous gift from the foundation and the people that support them in our community to help kids that want to participate in park and rec activities, but their families find it a financial strain to do so. So thanks for that generous donation to the Edina Community Foundation and its board. We are now on to commission correspondence. I don't think anything has come in since the council meeting was convened or called to order. Members, Ms. Sinning, you haven't had anything come in, have you? Oh, all right. And then we are on to manager's comments.
Thank you, Your Honor. For me, just to give you a sense of the legislative session is in full movement forward and sideways and back in some ways. We have meetings scheduled this week we had Bill Neuendorf and I had one with Senator Bill Weber today to talk about tax increment financing districts and the length of those districts. We have meetings with Senator Rest and Representative Davids later this week to talk about other aspects of the council's approved legislative agenda. I think specifically in those cases, it's the waiver of sales tax, state sales tax for our sales tax funded projects both at the Ice Arena and Braemar Park.
Those commodities that the city would have to purchase.
Exactly, right.
Avoid paying sales tax, all right.
The other thing we heard a little bit more about today is that the sales tax bill that was part of a session-ending task force that met during the summer, this is city sales taxes. There is an author. They're getting ready to put it together and introduce it in the Senate. I haven't seen it yet, but we should be seeing that later this week.
Very good.
That's what I've got.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
that. Member Pierce, do you want to lead us off with respect to council comments?
I only had, actually I didn't have anything. It just popped into my mind. I had a meeting earlier this morning about the film festival. And so with Megan Freeney, did I say her last name right? And so it was pretty exciting to kind of hear how that had progressed. And I was a little bit behind on some of the advancements of that particular initiative, but pretty excited to hear what we think we're going to be able to do at the Edina Theater. So looking forward to more from that.
Yeah, good, thanks for that. Member Jackson?
Nothing this week.
I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat, but Member Risser maybe can hold us up. I got a couple of things, but.
I do have one thing that was called to my attention, and I know we're focused on the budget and trying to reduce costs, and I feel really rattled by the fact that we didn't include any funding for that sidewalk that would come from the south part of the new library, the new county library, and connect to Adams Park. And I know when Hennepin County came with the sketch plan, I brought up that pathway at the beginning, and I do believe I thought there was support for putting in this sidewalk, and it really is much needed infrastructure that personally I think should have been put in decades ago. I mean, this is a pathway that would help kids get to the library, and it would be there for one of the most densely densely populated areas of our city. And if it was added, it would be it's that missing link that would provide a beautiful pedestrian loop and make it possible for people to get down to the promenade and all of that. And so I'm feeling really chagrined that we didn't put it in the CIP. And one suggestion that was made is that, we really need to find out how much it's going to cost to put in that sidewalk and then add it as an unfunded project for 2027, 2028. But I do think that's a basic part of our sidewalk infrastructure that is missing. And I pushed for it and then did not see that it wasn't included in the CIP, and that was brought to my attention. So feeling pretty badly about that. Anyway, that is what I have for tonight.
Andrew Neal has his finger in the air.
Yeah, I understand, Councilmember Risser and members of council. This is a piece of sidewalk that I think many staff have been wanting to build as well for a decade or so. And we've had many conversations with our colleagues in Richfield about how important it is to them as well. The fact that it's not in the current CIP doesn't mean it can't be added to a future CIP, and we'll have some time between now and when that library project is really ready to go. There'll be at least one more CIP review where we can add this to it. We're pretty good at building sidewalks. We build $1 million of sidewalks a year, roughly. So this is one that we can certainly add to that and really fully support that as well.
How do we guarantee that it will get in the next CIP? Because here's my frustration is I brought it up in the sketch plan. I thought there was buy-in for it. I forgot to bring it up. Staff didn't bring it up. That could happen in the next CIP. So how do we guarantee that we are going to build? I guess we don't, but it just doesn't, it seems like it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I'd say it's up to us as a council.
Right.
And
Okay.
I think when we get, as Manager Neal says, when we get closer on a plan on the library, then we could probably couple some approval there with moving the sidewalk into the CIP and do it when it makes sense in conjunction with.
There'll be a site
library
plan,
project.
there'll be a development agreement with the county, and that's at the time when you can guarantee that project is
And we can move it up
included.
in time too, or maybe it'll be closer in time then. Because it might be 26 or 27 before the library is built, so. But I think we're all of the same mindset. We want to get it done. We'll get it in. We'll get it in the appropriate CIP. I think you got us all on the same page.
I'm just feeling like it's never going to happen.
No, don't be optimistic. It's going to happen. I think your colleagues want to make it happen too. Okay. Is that anything else, Member Risser?
No, that's all.
Okay. All right. But when you talked about sidewalks, it caused me to think about something that came up at Rotary today. Somebody asked me, why aren't we cleaning the sidewalk over the bridge by the Episcopal Church on Wooddale? Because when you drive by there, it's full of snow except where people have walked, and it's about a foot wide space. And I've been told by somebody who's a member of that congregation that they've called several times and they've been told we aren't going to do that. But it's not a very long section of sidewalk, and I can see where it's beneficial to get it all cleaned off, because otherwise people have to be in the street, and the street narrows a little bit there as people are going to and from church in particular on Sunday. So take a look at that, would you, Director Milner, or talk to?
You're talking about the Wooddale Avenue Bridge?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll check it
Yeah,
out.
if you look at the east side of the Wooddale Avenue Bridge where there is sidewalk, it's not plowed.
Well, I'll check with Director Olson, but it might be too narrow that the machines can't sit on it,
that's
and it
what I
falls
think.
off. They keep falling off that thing, so I think it's might be too narrow, but we'll
think
check
that's
with
the case.
Director Olson and see once.
Well, it might be it might have to be done by hand, the old craftsman way. And then Manager Neal, we were in a meeting last week with the leaders from the Hindu temple, and there's a couple of, I guess, they canceled the event that was going to be held tonight. But the event on the 26th is going to be held. We should probably get something on our website about that, in case people from the general population want to attend that meeting, which is basically a meeting about religious tolerance. And we had an issue down at the Hindu temple with somebody making something tantamount to threats, and our police department has done a stellar job. Thank you, Assistant Chief, on being so responsive on that issue. People were nervous down there and continue to be so, but I think they've gotten much calmer because of the way that our police department has dealt with this issue and reinforced and supported them. So thanks for that. Yeah. So I was over at Edina Liquor the other day. I'm pushing bag sales here.
Thank you, thank you.
There's a new bag over at Edina Liquor, and if Director Benner would open up, so I had to laugh. I'm up at the counter, I'm buying, I think I bought some wine and something else, and the woman behind the counter says, "Hey, Mayor, you got to buy this bag. It holds 2 12-packs." I said, "Oh, great, right in my wheelhouse." I'm a 2 12-pack guy. The thing is huge. And then it holds some bottles on the side, and so they were all over the fact that I could really load this thing up, and anybody else could too that wanted to buy a Edina bag. It's quite sturdy. It's kind of got a retro look on it, and so I bought one, and it was like $7. And so I'm encouraging people to go over to Edina Liquor and buy an Edina bag, even if you don't buy 2 12-packs at a time.
And you get a discount, right?
And you get a $1 off on the price I think if you're signed up for the rewards program over there, you get $1 off. So, and then the other item I had lunch the other day with Richard Leiter, who has a home here and then one over on the St. Croix, north of Stillwater, but he's in the 4th edition of this book, The Power of Purpose, and it's already sold out this first run, I think 250,000 copies, but I thought I'd just give him a little shout out and say that he's updated this book, The Power of Purpose, and I think it's something that a lot of people are thinking a lot about these days, the power of purpose, and so that's a little boost for a resident of ours, Richard Leiter, who's a longtime publisher of articles around purpose and a lecturer as well. So that's it for me. Anything else that caused anybody else to think of anything? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the council meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to adjourn the council meeting this 18th day of February 2025. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The council meeting, the city of Edina stands adjourned.